How do you see the evolution of an Indian developer, and what is it that sets them apart?
It's amazing how India is one of the fastest growing developer populations in the world. One of the things that also comes with AI is that it's a very, very powerful.
How important is your mother tongue or a native Indian language at the intersection of AI-enabled coding tools?
It's amazing what GitHub Copilot can do. While of course, you can use it in English, you can also use it in Hindi, Kannada, Bengali, Telugu, Gujarati, Tamil. Because I can interact with Copilot in natural language.
Okay.
I can do this in any language.
Yep.
So how about we go ask it in Hindi?
For sure, yes. How far are we from a moment where you don't need to interact with the code and stuff that doesn't seem natural? Just type in and you get good results.
Last year at GitHub Universe, we introduced a preview of GitHub Spark. What that really helps you is to build micro apps entirely using natural language.
So this is quite surprising to me, the fact that you could modify the user interface
Yes.
without a prompt.
Yes.
What I have learned is, yes, coding tools are powerful, but there's a level of human judgment that you need to develop.
You can use AI and tools like GitHub Copilot to really solve for all of that so that you can start solving the bigger problems.
Right. How optimistic are you when you envision a new generation of people?
So this is something which I keep telling is that it's now the era of A, B, C, D, which is anybody can develop.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Tech Talks. Joined with us today is Karan M V, the Director of International Developer Relations at GitHub, which is probably the biggest platform for all of the developers across the world to collaborate and build many cool programs, open source technologies, and so on. So, Karan, one thing I'd like to start off with is the last time when we sort of covered an article when you were presenting at the AI tour, at the Microsoft's AI tour, you demonstrated prompting in Kannada, right? And when we wrote an article on that, it got an overwhelming response because people were surprised to see their mother tongue, the languages they speak with their mother and father, come into a coding environment, right? Coming to their workplace. So in that context, how important is your mother tongue or a native Indian language at the intersection of AI-enabled coding tools? So how would you, see that as someone who interacts with developers on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's good to know that folks are excited.
Yeah.
It's amazing what GitHub Copilot can do because you can interact with it in natural language and then work along with your code, right?
Right.
And natural language could be anything that all of us speak. So while of course you can use it in English, you can also use it in Hindi, Kannada, Bengali, Telugu, Gujarati, Tamil, so many different languages as well, right? And how this really helps is with an expression of thought and clarity. So say you're, building some application and, you want to make some changes or you want to write something from start. You go into your IDE, ask GitHub Copilot, can you help me build this or can I build this, etc. Right? Versus if you were to do something similar while, say, working with a peer programmer sitting right next to you or across the desk, right? You might go and then say, "ए सुनो ना मुझे ये करना है, ये कैसे करो, इसको कैसे change करो, इस error को कैसे fix करो," and all of that, right? You would speak to them in a very natural language,
Right.
not like how you might type or program. So the power is that when you're using the natural language, which you are comfortable with, where you have an expression of thought and clarity, and you use that, right? It helps you, communicate much more easier in a much more clearer way. And as a result, makes you more productive, more happier, right? Because you can just go and then say that, okay, मुझे ये एक web page build करो, मुझे ये चाहिए, and add this and all of that. It makes you a whole lot more productive in getting what you want.
Right. The clarity of thought is much better when you're thinking in the language that you natively think. So again, so you've been at GitHub since the last 5 years, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, close to.
And you've been a developer since quite a long time. So throughout your journey as a developer, and you being someone who interacts with developers a lot, what is the edge that Indian developers have had over the years compared to someone from the United States, or like even going forward with all such coding tools that enable them to use it in their native language? So, how do you see the evolution of an Indian developer, and what is it that sets them apart? And what is it that is going to continue to set them apart from other developers across the world?
It's amazing how India is one of the fastest growing developer populations in the world, and especially for GitHub. It's the second largest developer community with more than 17 million developers.
Right.
And to put this in context, what that means is, it's almost close or even more than the estimated population of Bangalore itself.
Right.
And that's how many developers are in India contributing to open source,
Right.
building AI with AI.
Right.
And also so many people, right from students and teachers and others as well, using GitHub and contributing back to open source.
Right.
And in fact, if you look at one of our annual reports, the October's 2024 edition, we also shared how there are so much open source contributions and also contributions to public Gen AI projects coming from India.
Right.
So I think it's, with all of this innovation and with all of this power of open source and AI that developers in India have, right? I think the next big multinational or the next big breakthrough, the next big startup is really is going to come from India, and that's and with the power of especially AI and tools like GitHub Copilot now available for free for everyone, including the developers over here, right? Yeah. So it's just your innovation that you apply and build something which could lead to the next big thing.
Right. Obviously, all of us here hope that, us Indians are at the forefront of such innovations. But also, when I, as a journalist, write about articles in AI or talk to people like you, there's always this sense of wanting to build something cool, but you end up being scared of looking at code. And I'm sure there are countless people like me who don't know code, but who aspire to build something, but who are quite perplexed at the idea of, writing code. Now, what would you sort of tell someone like me to use? How do I make use of these tools, and what is that push that you would like to give as someone who is a part of GitHub and someone who builds such tools? So, what would your message be to someone like me? How do I get there?
That's interesting. One of the things that also comes, with AI is that it's a very, very powerful learning tool as well. So you take GitHub Copilot as an example, right? And you just open up some code that you're not even familiar with. You don't know maybe what language it is or what it is doing, etc. In your own natural language, you can use GitHub Copilot like a learning tool and like a pair programmer as well, in a way, who can then explain you that, okay, look, this file does this, and this is what happens in this specific part of the code, etc. Right? So it's a very powerful learning tool, because you can just keep asking questions, general questions as well, about programming which are not related to your code. Say, for example, you see a mention about certain algorithm or certain control flow loops, etc. Right. You can ask that, what is this algorithm? Right. What does this do? Right. What does this control flow do, etc. Right. And it explains to you. Right. So you don't really have to be kind of so very worried about, can I ask this question to Copilot or not? Right. And be very thoughtful about what you're asking. It's just like you're sitting with a friend and you're going through certain code, or you're just even thinking how to start, right? Hey, isko kaise karo yaar? And ye code kya karta hai? Thoda explain karo na. Right. You can just ask the Copilot the same thing and start learning. Right. So this is something which I keep telling is that it's now the era of A, B, C, D, which is anybody can develop.
Right. That's so obviously there's this desire to work at a company like your Microsoft. So how optimistic are you when you envision a new generation of people, anybody can develop, people just jumping on board these coding tools, developing stuff, and how optimistic are you on them, seeing them on a pathway to like getting a job at a big company like Microsoft? How close are we to that point? And so, do you think we're approaching that era soon? Sure, we can develop stuff on our own, something for fun, something to, something for ourselves, something that improves our lives. But getting a good, like let's say, a position at a company, how close or how far are we from that situation?
With AI coming in, and especially helping you with development, right? The demand for software developers is really growing, because businesses have a whole lot of backlogs that they want to get through, and developers want to work a whole lot more faster. There is more and more need and demand to solve problems, not just for businesses, but for society as a large itself. Right. And that's where a whole lot of developers are coming to solve this. So, for example, we had also, recently published a video story about an open source project called the Open Healthcare Network, who is, building so amazing solutions for healthcare using AI and tools like GitHub Copilot. And it's a community and it's open source project with developers coming together to build all of that, solving a problem for the society. Similarly, there are problems, which businesses have to solve, which society has to solve, which individuals have to solve, etc. So the demand is increasing and the tools are available. The AI tools like GitHub Copilot, and like also how I mentioned, especially available for free for everyone with a GitHub account. People can make use of this to get ahead, to learn, to solve problems in a much more faster way.
Right. So, I'd like to, ask another question is, so many times I've observed like a polar opposites of situations, right? So one, I see developers like building stuff in like a few minutes using Copilot tools. And then I see my very own friends and very own people in my engineering days who've had like stacks of books and they've studied all fundamentals, like stuff that I can't even pronounce, right? So in this day and age, when I am ambitious to build something using AI, something with natural language, how do you assess the importance of these fundamental concepts that often needs some sense of a patience to sort of read and understand?
See, with a whole lot of the AI tools, even GitHub Copilot, when you are using it to develop something, human judgment is very, very important, right? And also, there are a whole lot of different processes where human input is very essential. If you're thinking of something like, say, product design, or certain aspects related to compliance in your code or how it works, etc. The human judgment is very, very important. Hence, which is why it's a co-pilot, which helps you to be a whole lot more faster and kind of get away with a whole lot of the mundane tasks that you would have to do, which is important. But you can use AI and tools like GitHub Copilot to really solve for all of that, so that you can start solving the bigger problems. So human judgment is very, very important as a developer to know that, okay, does this solution work for me or not? Is this fit for me or not? And is this something? Does this code really help me solve this problem or not? And that code could be anything. That could be an entire web page that is written, or it's an algorithm that is suggested, or it is a certain way of accomplishing certain tasks, etc. So human judgment is, equally important. And how that translates to a developer is something which, they need to be aware of as well.
So there's another question that a lot of people ask us, or generally, when a very reputed tech CEO goes on social media and says code is over, right? So you see a lot of these people with 1 or 2 years experience in the industry sort of freak out that, look, we don't have that judgment yet. we're hired mostly for our coding skills. So there's this misunderstanding between AI assisted coding and AI automated coding. So for someone who doesn't know the distinction between the two and someone who's panicking how their jobs are going to evolve, how would you, as someone who's interact with developers in your career, calm them down and tell them that, look, your role is going to evolve, but how is it going to evolve? How is it going to change? Or what is it that they need to sort of build? And how are companies sort of transitioning to this change and giving younger developers more responsibilities because their basic codes can be automated? So how would you assess this situation and talk to a developer who's panicking right now?
See, I think the role of a developer,
Right.
with all of the AI tools available, is going to change
Right.
for the good.
Right.
Because what developers will be more focused on is problem solving.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Rather than saying that I'm going to write this piece of code.
Right.
Here is a problem that I have.
Right.
Be it of writing this new feature or fixing this bug or whatever that could be, of optimizing this algorithm, whatever it is, right?
Right.
That's the problem at hand.
Right.
How do you solve this problem?
Right.
So developers, move to a higher abstraction level of problem solving,
Right.
and with the help of AI tools.
Right.
Now, of course, there is multiple different ways of solving all of these problems, just like how there are multiple ways to solve any problems even outside of development, right?
Right.
So that's where again your thought process of how you want to tackle it comes into place.
Right.
Now, an example of that is, say you have a bug, all right,
Right.
which is a problem that you need to solve,
Right.
And as a developer, you might kind of think about and then say that, okay, I have this bug. First, I need to figure out where is it coming from?
Right.
How do I solve it?
Right.
How do I test it? And all of those things, right?
Right.
So again, with this as a high-level solution, there are multiple ways you can do that.
Right.
For example, recently we launched in a very experimental and preview mode the agent mode in Copilot within your ID.
Right.
So say you have a bug as a problem,
Right.
you can go ask Copilot in the agent mode saying that here is the bug that I have,
Right.
help me solve it.
Right.
All right. And then it can go take a look at the relevant code,
Right.
come up with, ways that, okay, this is where probably it's, going wrong,
Right.
fix that, and then, rerun whatever tests are there and then say that, okay, now it is fixed.
Okay.
Right. Versus, say, probably there is another feature that you're writing, all right? And then you say that, okay, I have written this page. Now I want to run this function.
Right.
So you can go within your editor, call Copilot within your editor,
Right.
and then say, okay, I need this very specific function over here to do this, right?
Right.
So there are multiple ways, like how I said, depending on what kind of a problem that you're solving. But ultimately, you're solving problems rather than, writing code. You're solving problems. You're, of course, writing code as well. But primarily, your role becomes that of a problem solver as to how do I solve this with the help of AI.
Right. So taking a step back from AI and talking about another revolution, which is the open source revolution, right? So a lot of young developers out there, just stepping into college, how would you explain the importance of making open source contributions on GitHub, sort of contributing to some of the bigger projects out there? And how is it that how is it going to play a crucial part in their development journey rather than just trying to stack up certificates from courses?
Open source is the world's largest team sport.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I would put it.
Right.
It's where you are collaborating with so many developers across the world.
Right.
Need not be in the same geography as you, need not be in the same time zone as you, need not be in the same language that you are speaking as well.
Right.
And you're working with a whole lot of different people.
Right.
So it really helps you learn from different developers, different projects. It helps you contribute back meaningfully.
Right.
It helps you build a profile for yourself.
Right. Right.
And it also helps you to kind of give back to the ecosystem that you have been getting from.
Right.
if you look around, open source is there everywhere today.
Right.
It's, powering so many different technologies, hardware, electronics, devices, etc. Right? It's amazing what's possible and what's out over there.
Right.
So any developer, I would encourage them saying that, do participate in the open source ecosystem and contribute back. And contribution doesn't always have to be like a code contribution. It could be a contribution in, say, helping improving the documentation. It could be a contribution in helping spread the word about the usage and the benefits about it. It could be a contribution in, designing something around it, right? So all of this, in a way, helps move forward, human progress and human innovation itself about what's possible, right? And especially for a whole lot of young engineers who are just getting started, it helps them with learning as well, right? And also, like how I mentioned previously, when open source and something like AI comes together, this convergence is something which is very, very awesome, because it brings around a whole lot of knowledge and expertise in open source, and also the productivity and the satisfaction of solving problems using AI to kind of move everything forward.
Right. So over the years, there's been a good amount of abstractions in programming, right? We've had machine code, then we've had Python, and now we've had this combination of language and code, natural language and code. How far are we from a moment where you don't need to interact with the code and stuff that doesn't seem natural? Just type in and you get good results, and you just keep talking to a computer like you talk to a person who's working with you. So how far are we from that era?
Interesting that you asked that, because last year at GitHub Universe, we introduced a preview of GitHub Spark.
Yep.
Right. And what that really helps you is to build micro apps entirely using natural language. Right. So you have an interface with, with just where you can enter a prompt saying that, okay, build this, small web game for me, or build this small application for me. And it goes back, iterates, and builds out that entire thing for you. Right. So this is very, very powerful, because people who are not traditionally into software development, who don't code, can also start building applications right now entirely using natural language.
Right.
And people who are, full-time software developers can also start using it for, various different purposes, like your initial boilerplate tooling, or, POCs and multiple different things as well, right? So such kind of tools, even though they're still in technical preview, are very, very powerful in what they can do. So that's something which is interesting.
So we've covered a lot of things so far. So what I have learned is, yes, coding tools are powerful, but there's a level of human judgment that you need to develop. Now, let's say, how would you, if I were to ask you for a framework to, build this human judgment, someone who's a non-engineer, right? Because if you're an engineer by education, you throughout the years you would have understood how to make judgments. But someone as a non-engineer who aspires to code, who aspires to build, how would you, tell him or her a step-by-step framework, like this is what you need to do better to build a judgment, and this is how you need to keep applying the judgment? So what would your take be on that? Like a very actionable framework types of starts.
So in a very actionable way, right? When you're a non coder, right? When you want to build something, you already know what you want to build, right? So start off with that. What is it that you want to build? What is that problem that you want to solve? Okay. Step 2, you learn by doing. Go get VS Code. GitHub Copilot is available for free within VS Code. Start using it. Start learning what it is that you really, would like to build, right? So you might say that, okay, I want to build this small app.
Right.
Start using Copilot to figure out how do you start? Where do you start from? What is it that I want to know? And then start learning and then start doing. Because you learn by doing, and with Copilot by your side, literally by your side in the editor, you can kind of continuously iterate and learn whole lot of those concepts which is needed to solve that problem. So it's a very iterative journey which helps you build, which helps you learn, and then eventually you will be able to build whatever it is that you need and solve for that problem. And then learning never stops.
Right.
So you kind of learn more, iterate more, build more, take advantage of all of the free tools that are available. Just like I said, VS Code, which is available for free, GitHub Copilot available for free. Participate in open source as well, by either using some of the open source projects or giving back to the open source projects, which are very similar or helps you solve that problem that you're thinking about. Or even if the problem that you're solving and is building is unique, give it back to the open source ecosystem,
right,
so that someone else also can benefit from it.
Right.
So this is the 1, 2, 3 step of building.
Right. Right.
And the 2 key pillars is really around open source and AI.
So I think all of these perspectives sort of cater to the entry-level developers, people who are aspiring to build. But before we shot the podcast, you're also talking about how excited you are with regards to all the new frameworks that are coming up, the building blocks of programming. So how do you see AI enable these senior developers and people who are much more experienced, who sort of think in a way to improve programming itself? So how do you see AI bringing out more such frameworks that you were talking about before the recording? And could you just please elaborate on that? I think that our core developer community would love to know your thoughts on that.
So one word is productivity.
Right.
Now, as an example, GitHub Copilot Pro is available for maintainers of popular open source projects.
Right.
And many of these senior developers and maintainers who are working in the open source ecosystem are using Copilot to maintain and build all of these open source projects which everyone is using. Right? Because it's helping them with productivity to get ahead, get across a whole lot of things that they have to do in terms of maintenance, so that they can focus their efforts and thought process on bigger problems that needs to be solved. So you pick an open source project, right? There are multiple, bugs or vulnerabilities and other things, right? Which can be solved, which are very important in terms of maintenance. But equally important is the next feature set, right? So for a whole lot of, senior developers, professionals, right? One, it helps you kind of be more productive in getting all of these things done, so you can focus on the larger problems. And second is also it helps you stay a whole lot more current in terms of technologies and frameworks. For example, if you are, say, a Java developer wanting to learn Python or wanting to learn JavaScript or TypeScript, right? How do you do that? You can do that easily by just starting a new project or opening up an existing project internally, externally, open source, using tools like Copilot to understand, okay, this is this concept in Java which maps to this in Python or this in TypeScript, etc. Right? So what it helps you is in modernization of a whole lot of your projects, and also your own understanding of how some of these technologies work, what is really useful, so that then you can build what's best for that specific problem.
Right.
You're building, say, a web app or a mobile app, all right? How do you decide what technology to use based on what is available?
Right.
Based on the strengths of those frameworks, based on the strengths of those specific languages which are there, right? So when a whole lot of the senior developers and professionals are equipped with that knowledge and understand, they can solve for the problem better.
Right.
And that's exactly a whole lot of scenarios which which Copilot can help you with.
So yeah, I think if there's one thing that I've learned talking with Karan over the last hour is that go out there and build. The tools are there, the knowledge is there, you have everything for free. And this is not just about talking, we're also going to show you how to, sort of use GitHub Copilot in your native language and build out cool stuff in no time. So I think that would be something we'd want you to show. So are we ready for that?
Yeah, happy to. Let me show you something.
Yeah, sure. So we hear you want to show us something. Show me something. So what is it that you want to show me here with GitHub Copilot, and what is it that we're doing today?
Got it. So let's walk through a couple of use cases here. All right. Now, what you see over here is VS Code. All right. All right. So we kind of start off here with this project, which is already existing, and you don't know much about it. All right.
Exactly.
So I can just get started with Copilot. All right over here, and I can ask it in natural language as to what is this framework and what tech stack it uses, how do I run, etc. All right, and because I can interact with Copilot in natural language, I can do this in any language.
Yep.
So how about we go ask it in Hindi?
For sure, yes.
So I'll say, इस कोड बेस के बारे में कुछ बताइए. कौन से टेक स्टैक इस्तेमाल हुआ है और इस ऐप को कैसे रन करूं?
And all of these features are in the free version itself. That every can
Absolutely. We're using the free version of GitHub Copilot itself right now here in VS Code. So once I ask it, it's going to get all of the context from my workspace over here. And it gives me, a response again in Hindi itself. So you see, it says ये code base एक Next.js application है, जो sporting gear products के लिए e-commerce platform बनाता है. So it tells me that these are all the tech stack which is used, Next.js, React, Tailwind, all of those things, and it gives me very specific instructions as to what commands do I run to make use of this as well.
So it's a good head start.
It's a good head start. I'm getting started with this project, so I have no idea, and this really helps me. So I can just ask Copilot to run this command right here in the terminal, which will bring up my development server, which says development server start kare, and then I can see that it's probably starting it. So I have the URL typed out here just for convenience. So I can just hit on refresh, and it came up. All right. So now this is the app that we are working with. Like how it says some sporting gear. So I can see some things which are already defined.
So this is the existing project that we have.
This is the existing project. All right. Now you see there is a new task which has come in to write an admin page for this, so that folks can add new products. All right. Now, generally, as a developer, the thing that you might want to start off with is that, admin page is a requirement. And imagine you have all of the things that you need in terms of requirements. How do you go about implementing it? You need to start again thinking about, where should this page live? And what all should I include, in it? How to write that, how to implement it, etc. So this is where something like the Copilot agent mode is very, very helpful for me to get started and accomplish this task. Now,
so from 0 to 100, it just helps you do everything that you have to do to implement that feature.
So it comes with agentic capabilities where it helps and iterates through multiple different tasks needed to accomplish what you have asked for. Can run terminal commands, fix errors while going on the way, and help you get started. So let's try that out using Copilot agent mode. So I can go here into Copilot edits, and right here you can see agent and edit. So by selecting agent, you are actually starting to use agent mode of Copilot, which is currently in an experimental phase. So you can see that it mentions it automatically uses multiple files, picks up the files, runs terminal commands, and kind of iterate on the errors as well. All right. So this is where I can go ask it and give it a requirement of what it is that I really want to build.
Okay. And so how is this different from the edit mode that you just showed us?
So in the edit mode, if you select the edit mode, you can see that you define a set of files and you want to make edits across multiple of those files using AI and Copilot, right? So when you know that these are the specific files that you want to work through, that's where you specify and use the edit mode. The agent mode is a lot more agentic because it looks at the context and picks up the specific files, makes the changes, fixes any errors that come along the way as well.
You don't have to specify where exactly you need to make those changes, and the agent is going to figure out that for you.
Correct. That's right.
Right.
You can still give it additional context if you need, but it can help you figure out.
You can get it done without.
Correct. Sure. So I'm going to again, in Hindi, give it some context of what it is, which is basically my requirement that needs to be built. So I'm going to say, मुझे एक admin page बनाओ. All right.
Okay.
इसमें एक फॉर्म चाहिए. प्रोडक्ट डिटेल्स लिखने के लिए. ओके. एडमिन पेज जो बना रहे हैं /admin/products URL से accessible होना है. Okay.
Right.
And just so it's easy for me to access, I'm also going to say that इसके लिए होम पेज नेविगेशन में भी एक बटन ऐड करो.
Okay, so you can specify what exactly your requirements are.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is largely what I need.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if my Hindi is right, but I'm hoping that Copilot can understand it to get me what is needed.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to ask it, and then it starts working, on what is needed. So you can see that it's reading specific files and folders itself as to whatever is required to make it happen. And then it says that, well, it's been working on this. And it goes back and you see that it's written a new admin page for me. That one which has just appeared over here.
Right.
All right. Which has, a few things. I don't know. Let's see what comes up. And you can see that it's kind of still continuing to work on some of the other aspects. So you can see it's generating edits for navigation.
So you remain very connected to the process, disconnected from the code base that your engineers have built for you. So you're not messing around.
Correct. So then you see that it has gone and modified my navigation file as well to add a button which I needed.
Right.
And you can see here that it's actually checked these pages to ensure there are no problems as well.
Okay, perfect.
And then finally it says मैंने admin page बनाने के लिए dash URL पर एक form create किया है जिसमें product details लिखने के लिए fields है and all of those things. So basically it is telling me that I have addressed all of these for you.
So it's a full conversation that you have.
Yeah, it's just like how a developer and a peer programmer who's sitting next to me converses.
There's a confirmation that what is this done?
Yes.
Right.
It's like complete कर चुका हूँ.
Right.
So let's go and just check it out and see, because we have this running over here. And you can see this right here, a new admin button, which has come up in the navigation, which we asked for. So let's click on that. And, it says this, it's giving me an error. So, it's kind of written this. And if I go back, I see a 404 means page not found.
Okay.
Now, this is where, a whole lot of the judgment as a developer comes into play.
Okay.
Because I can see it's written the page for me.
Okay.
I can see it's written the button which I need. Okay. So as a developer, I might start thinking that, there's probably something going on in where the URL points to. So as a developer, I'm just going to go back and then continue the iteration with Copilot in the agent mode itself. And then I'm going to say /admin/products pay 404 error मिल रहा है. क्या ये पेज ठीक लोकेशन पे है? Okay. And I'm going to let it kind of continue iterate to see that, okay, this is something that's probably there. And then you can see that it tells me that ये जो /admin products page का file location पे है, जो सही location नहीं है.
Okay.
So this tells me that this has to go into a different location, and it gives me the command as well.
Right.
So what I can do right now is if I just hit on continue, it goes back, runs that command for me.
Okay.
Right here in the terminal.
Yes.
And if I go back, I can see that it's moved into the right place for me into /admin. All right. So this is again, one of my judgments which comes into play because it's on /admin and probably not on /admin/products. Right. So I can again kind of continue iteration and then tell it to make a manual change as well, which is needed for it to work. But I'm just going to go ahead and then do that change quickly myself and then say that this is where it needs to be.
Okay.
And then it's going to be in the right place. So then when I go back and refresh this, I get it back. Right? So this is how the iteration really works when it comes to Copilot and the agent mode, where Copilot helps you run through everything that's needed, fix any errors along the way, and also, you as a developer add your judgment to make it work.
So, but again, this is with an existing code base. You're debugging an existing code base, adding a feature into an existing application. But Karan, what about people who have no idea about code, who want to build something simple? So where do they go? And someone who wants to do it in the native language as well. So can you show a use case for that as well here?
Absolutely. Last year during GitHub Universe, we showed a technical preview of GitHub Spark.
Yes.
Which helps you build micro apps entirely using natural language.
Yes.
Just getting started, with a prompt itself.
Yes.
So let's go and then check out GitHub Spark.
So one thing is that ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕನ್ನಡದವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ನಡ ಡೆವಲಪರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಆಲ್ ಇವಾಗ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗಳಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರಿಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಮಾಡಿ ತೋರ್ಸಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ?
ಖಂಡಿತ. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಡು ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಬಿಲ್ಡ್?
ಇವಾಗ ನಂಗೊಂದು ಟು ಡೂ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಬೇಕು. ಇವಾಗ ನನ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ದಿನ ಎದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಮ್ಮ ಏನೋ ಅಂಗಡಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಇದು ತರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅವಾಗ ಮರ್ತೋಗತ್ತೆ. ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಇವಾಗ ನನ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು if let's say I want a small to do list, so can I get that done in Kannada?
Yeah, let's try that out using GitHub Spark.
For sure.
And we can prompt it out in Kannada itself and see.
We can.
So I will say ಒಂದು to-do list app Bareri. Okay. And I'll say ಈ to-do list ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊಸ ಐಟಮ್ಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಇರೋ ಐಟಮ್ಸ್ ನ ಚೆಕ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಇರಬೇಕು. Okay. And I'm giving this in a prompt in a very, very normal, casual way, just like how I would discuss with any
this is how I discuss it with you also.
Yes, exactly, right. So I'm just gonna hit on that, and what GitHub Spark does is it picks up the context and it starts generating the code needed to build that whole thing. So you can see here on the left that it's writing all of that code needed to build that specific app.
Yes.
And once that's done, you can start seeing some signs of the preview as well right over here, on the right side. All right. where you can see, the to-do list app, which is there right over here on a preview,
Yep.
where I can say anything that I want to add, or just like how I asked it, I can, check off anything that I need as well.
Okay.
So just with one prompt,
Okay.
I was able to write this and also get the code needed to write this.
Right.
And the best part is I can kind of continue iterating on this as well by specifying more prompts,
Okay.
over here. And I can, get some ways to even
Oh, wow. Okay.
theme this right over here with the preview as well. So you
Okay.
can see how easy it is to really start building
Okay.
apps completely using natural language.
Right.
And you can see that there are suggestions that Spark gives you as well. Add the ability to delete individual to-do items.
Right.
Add a filter to show only incomplete
Okay.
or complete to-dos, which I can then give to refine my Spark to build the entire application that I need as well.
Right. So this is quite surprising to me, the fact that you could modify the user interface
Yes.
without a prompt.
Yes.
It's almost like it's become very modular at this point. You can also increase the scale. So
Absolutely.
right.
So it kind of really helps build in natural language
Okay.
for folks who are probably not as used to coding.
Okay.
And at the same time, for a whole lot of the developers who are
Right.
very used to coding, it starts off as an excellent starting point,
Right.
because you can then take this code
Right.
and then continue iterating and build on top of it
Right.
within VS Code, again using Copilot.
And this is fully functional as well. And
Absolutely.
personally, I feel there's no better way to learn code than to just build something you like and see how the code sort of gets modified. So even if I apply these options, the code does get modified, is it? Yeah.
Absolutely. So you can see I increased the scale. I switched it into dark mode right now.
Okay.
And I made the border radius square.
Okay. Right.
And then, I changed the app icon to anything that I need,
Okay. Right.
etc. So
Right. So this.
so very easy for anyone to get started with development. So again, this is right now in technical preview only.
Okay.
But with things like GitHub Spark, right, it becomes very easier, like how I mentioned,
Right.
for ABCD. Anybody can develop.
Yeah. I think that is the key takeaway from my hour-long interaction with you, is that anybody can develop. And I think personally, this has definitely sort of inspired me as well to check out these tools, understand how all of these things work. And I'm sure thousands of other developers, would be inspired by whatever you've just shown, and to just get their hands on these tools and build something that they like. So yeah, I think thank you so much, Karan, for all of this. And it was lovely talking to you. And let's just all hope that we see more and more developers coming from India, because anybody can develop. That's what we've heard.
Absolutely.
Right.